the family drama that led me to evict my own brother from our home. Before we begin the story, make sure to subscribe to our channel and never miss more incredible stories every day. The deputy stood between me and my own front door, holding the paper like it was radioactive. "Mr. Harris," he said, "this is the lockout order. Franklin County, case 25 CV 11842. Are you ready to proceed?" Kyle was behind the screen door, barefoot, smirking like this was a prank he'd planned weeks ago. My keys sat useless in my palm. Morgan stood a step behind me on the walkway, their hand hovering near my elbow like they expected me to bolt. I'm Brian, 32, a middle school teacher who finally scraped together a down payment for a 2-bedroom condo on the south side of Columbus. It isn't fancy, but it's mine, the first stable thing I ever built without my family's chaos leaking into the walls. If I miss one mortgage payment, my loan terms jump. If my HOA gets another complaint, they fine me $250 a pop. I can't ride it out. Kyle is my little brother, 29, and until 4 months ago, I would have taken a punch for him. I let him move in for a couple weeks after his breakup and work situation imploded. That was my first mistake. The deputy cleared his throat. "Once the locksmith changes the cylinder, your brother has to leave immediately. Any property disputes happen after he's out." Kyle leaned close to the glass. "Tell them you changed your mind, Brian," he called, voice sweet. "Tell them you're not the kind of brother who makes his mom cry." My phone buzzed again. "Mom. Diane." I didn't answer. I couldn't, not with the deputy watching and Kyle's eyes pinning me through the mesh. Morgan whispered, "Do it. You've got the file. You've got the screenshots. Don't let him scare you." A neighbor across the courtyard had their phone up, recording. Kyle noticed and gave them a little wave, like he was the injured party in some viral clip. The locksmith set his bag down and snapped on gloves. Somewhere inside my condo, behind Kyle's smug face, was the thing he never meant me to find. The reason he needed my address, my mailbox, my quiet life. And if I back down now, I might lose all of it tomorrow. Then the deputy asked a question that made my stomach drop. For months earlier, in mid-March, Kyle showed up on a Tuesday night with a duffel bag and a smile that didn't reach his eyes. I'd just finished grading essays about responsibility, which feels like a joke now. He leaned on my doorframe like he owned it. "Hey, Teach," he said. "I need a couch. Just for a bit." "Where's your place?" I asked. He exhaled hard, like the answer physically hurt. "Megan changed the locks. I didn't do anything. She's just dramatic. And my job cut hours. It's temporary." That was Kyle's favorite word, temporary. He'd said it about every bad decision since high school. I should have said no. Morgan and I had finally settled into routines. Dinner on the balcony, quiet nights, my early mornings. But then Mom called before I could even think. Diane's voice came through wet and shaky. "Brian, please. He's your brother. He is nowhere else. Don't make him sleep in his car." "Mom, he's had nowhere else before," I said, trying to keep my tone neutral. "And it always becomes my emergency." "He's different now," she insisted. "If you turn him away, I swear I'll never forgive myself." "Were you?" Kyle stood in my hallway, listening, pretending not to. When I hung up, he touched his chest like he'd been stabbed. "So you're gonna make Mom cry? Over a couple weeks?" Morgan pulled me aside in the kitchen. "If you say yes, we need rules in writing," they whispered, "and you stick to them." So I wrote them on my laptop like I was drafting a lesson plan. No overnight guests, no drugs, no yelling, for $100 toward utilities on the first, quiet hours after 10, and, because I'd learned the hard way, no changing the mailing address without asking me. Kyle read it fast, nodded fast, signed fast. "Easy," he said. "I'm not a monster, Brian." He hugged me on the way to the spare room, and for one stupid second, I felt proud. 2 days later, the first rule broke in a way that made Morgan go pale. When I opened the bathroom cabinet, something of mine was already missing. It started with something so small, I wanted to laugh at myself for caring. Morgan was getting ready for work when they opened the bathroom cabinet and froze. "Brian," they called, voice clipped. "Did you move my meds?" I stepped in behind them. The orange bottle for Morgan's ADHD medication, one I'd seen every morning for a year, wasn't on the shelf. Neither was the refill receipt stapled to it. The only thing left was a rectangle of dust where it had been. "I didn't touch it," I said. "Maybe you took it." "I didn't," Morgan cut in, eyes already scanning the counter, the trash, The drawer. I remember putting it right here last night. Kyle strolled past the open door in gym shorts, scratching his stomach like this was his apartment. Morning, he said. Morgan turned. Kyle, did you take anything from our bathroom? Kyle's face did the quick shift thing it always did. Offended, then wounded, then charming. Seriously, he laughed. You think I'm stealing pills? I'm asking, Morgan said. Because it's gone. Kyle put a hand on his heart. I don't even like that stuff. Makes you jittery. Maybe you misplaced it. I wanted to believe him because the alternative was admitting I'd invited a thief into my home. So I told myself it was a mistake, a weird coincidence, a box in the wrong bag. But Morgan didn't let it go. That evening, they showed me a note they'd typed into their phone at 7:12 a.m. Meds missing. Kyle walked by at 7:16. They'd added a screenshot of the pharmacy app showing the fill date, March 6th, and the remaining count. You don't write timestamps like that unless you've lived with someone like him, Morgan said. I snapped, defensively. He's my brother. And this is our home, Morgan shot back. Both can be true. Kyle found the bottle later, tucked behind the toilet tank like it had slipped. He held it out with a grin. See? Mystery solved. Can I stop being a criminal now? Morgan took it, checked the seal, and their mouth tightened. There were 30 pills, they said quietly. Now there are 26. Kyle shrugged. Count again. That night, after Kyle fell asleep in the spare room, Morgan pulled up our bank app and showed me a charge I couldn't explain. It was a $1 test, charge from a lender I'd never heard of. After that test charge, my condo stopped feeling like mine and started feeling like a set Kyle was filming in. He slept all day and came alive after midnight, the front door clicking open and shut like a metronome. Twice I woke to low laughter on my balcony. Kyle smoking with two guys I didn't know, their voices bouncing off the courtyard. Our HOA emailed me on April 2nd at 6:18 a.m. Noise complaint, Unit 2B. Fine assessed, $250. I confronted Kyle at breakfast. No guests after 10, I said, tapping the rules printout we'd taped to the fridge. Kyle didn't even look up from his cereal. They weren't guests, he said. They were just here. That's what guests are. He finally met my eyes, smile gone. You're acting like my dad. Relax. Morgan started locking our bedroom door when we went to sleep. I hated that we needed to, hated more that it worked, because Kyle tried the knob one night. When it didn't turn, he rattled it harder, then laughed and walked away. Little things vanished. My spare car key wasn't on the hook. A stack of ungraded quizzes disappeared from the coffee table. Morgan's earbuds went missing and reappeared in Kyle's laundry basket like a magic trick. Every time I asked, Kyle had the same playbook. Deny, joke, accuse me of being paranoid. One Friday, I came home to a stranger's shoes by my couch and the smell of stale beer. Kyle was in my recliner with his feet on my ottoman, scrolling my TV like he paid the bill. Who was that? I asked, nodding at the guy in the kitchen. Kyle raised his eyebrows. A friend. Don't do your little teacher voice at me. Morgan stepped in between us. Kyle, you can't bring people here without asking. Kyle stood up fast, chest puffed. Or what? You'll ground me? He leaned closer to me, voice low. You think you're better because you own a condo? You're one paycheck away from being me. The stranger watched, amused, like we were entertainment. That night, I checked my desk drawer for the checkbook I almost never used. The drawer was open a sliver, and the checkbook was gone. I was still staring at the empty space when the mail slot clacked and an envelope slid onto the floor, addressed to Kyle, not me. The return label read Summit Ridge Bank, new account documents enclosed. I didn't open the bank envelope right away. I stood there like it could bite me, then slipped it into my backpack before Kyle noticed. My hands shook the whole drive to Mom's house, because she demanded we talk like adults after Kyle called her sobbing. Diane met me at her door, eyes puffy. What are you doing to your brother? She blurted. I'm not doing anything, I said. I gave him a place to stay. He's breaking every rule. Kyle was already there, sitting on the couch like a saint. He looked up and sniffed dramatically. Brian hates me, he said softly. I stared. Are you serious? Mom's voice rose. He said you screamed at him, that you threatened to throw his things outside. That Morgan is controlling. Morgan wasn't even with me. Kyle had made sure of that. He'd told Mom Morgan talks down to family. And Mom believed him because it fit her fear narrative, outsiders ruining us. I pulled out my phone and showed her the HOA email, the fine, the timestamp. This is because of Kyle's late-night hangouts. Kyle squinted like he was reading a menu. I didn't even have anyone over that night, he said. You were half asleep. Maybe you dreamed it. My stomach twisted because for a second, the doubt landed. I'd been exhausted. What if? Then Mom took my hand. Honey, she whispered, he has nowhere else. If you do something drastic, eviction, police, court, people will talk. Don't embarrass us. I hated that phrase. It had followed me my whole life, like our image mattered more than our safety. Kyle wiped at an invisible tear. I'm trying, Mom. Brian just wants me to disappear. I want him to stop treating my home like a motel, I said. Kyle's eyes hardened for half a second, then softened again. He looked at Mom, not me. See, he said, he doesn't care if I end up on the street. On the drive back, Mom texted me a screenshot Kyle had sent her. Brian is getting aggressive. If something happens to me, it's on him. Under it, my pulse spiked, because I knew what Kyle was doing. He was building a story. When I got home, Morgan was waiting with my backpack open on the counter. Brian, they said, voice tight. Why is there mail to Kyle from a bank in here? Then Morgan added, and why is your credit report open on his laptop? Morgan and I waited until Kyle left for the gym, which meant sitting in his car on FaceTime with somebody. The moment the door clicked, Morgan locked the deadbolt and slid the chain like we were in a bad movie. Open it, they said, pointing at the bank envelope. My hands were sweaty as I tore the top. Inside was a glossy welcome packet. Summit Ridge Bank. Congratulations on your new checking account. There was a debit card with Kyle's name embossed and a page titled Account Holder Verification. What made my throat close was the address line. Brian Harris, 2147, Larkspur Court, Unit 2B. My condo. Why is your name on it? Morgan asked. I flipped the page. The account was joint, supposedly, Kyle plus me. The application date was March 28th. The signature block had Brian Harris in slanted handwriting I didn't recognize. Morgan pulled up my email. Remember that paperless statements link you said you didn't click? They showed me a screenshot from March 29th at 2:11 a.m. Your Summit Ridge account is ready. Confirm your identity. I hadn't even been awake. We opened my credit monitoring app. 2 new hard inquiries sat there like bruises. Summit Ridge, March 28th, and a place called Buckeye Lending, March 30th. My score had dropped 40 points. I felt stupid, then angry, then nauseous. He used my address, I whispered. He used me. Morgan was already in problem-solving mode. No confrontation yet, they said. We document. Screenshots, photos, dates. And we stop him from doing more. We went into the spare room. I hated myself for it, like I was violating Kyle, but Kyle had been violating my life for weeks. In his duffel's side pocket, under a crumpled hoodie, was a manila folder. Inside, copies of my driver's license, front and back, printed on regular paper. A page titled Employment Verification with my school's name. And a sticky note with a number I knew by heart. My social security number, written in Kyle's handwriting. At the bottom, he'd added, use this if they ask for proof. The next morning, I called in sick for the first time in 3 years. I'd never felt guiltier about it. At 9:07 a.m., I called Summit Ridge's fraud line. I kept my voice calm the way I do with 8th graders who lie with confidence. Hi, I said. I received account documents listing me as a joint holder. I didn't open that account. The rep asked verification questions I answered easily, because they were about me. Then her tone changed. Mr. Harris, the joint application was submitted online using a photo of your driver's license and a selfie match. A selfie? I repeated. Yes. It was approved automatically on March 28th at 1:43 a.m. Morgan and I looked at each other. Kyle had been awake. We'd been asleep. I drove to the branch off Sawmill Road with my ID and the packet. A manager printed the application file and highlighted the uploaded images. My driver's license, my name, and a grainy selfie of someone wearing a baseball cap low, face half-shadowed, trying to look like me. It's him, Morgan whispered. The manager wouldn't hand me copies without a police report number. Identity theft protocol, she said, sympathetic but firm. So we went to the police station. I filed a report with an officer who looked exhausted and kind. He wrote down my statement, the dates, the missing checkbook, the bank packet. He assigned it report hashtag 26-0419-22 and told me to freeze my credit immediately. Outside, Morgan squeezed my hand. We do this right, they said. No exploding. We make it boring and official. That afternoon, attorney Nguyen, recommended by Morgan's coworker, met us on a video call. Nguyen spoke like a surgeon, precise, unemotional, saving feelings for later. If he's established residency, you can't just throw him out, Nguyen said. You need notice, documentation, and court. And if he's committing fraud, you need a paper trail. I emailed Nguyen photos of the folder, the sticky note, the bank packet, and screenshots of the inquiries. Nguyen replied with one line, "Do not warn him. He will destroy evidence." At 6:22 p.m., Summit Ridge emailed me the transaction summary once they had the report number. Kyle had withdrawn $4,900 in cash the same day my checkbook vanished. That $4,900 cash withdrawal explained the missing checkbook, but it didn't explain the calmness Kyle had carried through every accusation. He didn't act like a guy stealing to survive. He acted like a guy executing steps. Morgan and I pulled my full credit report from all 3 bureaus and printed it like we were building a murder board. New accounts, new inquiries, addresses I'd never lived at, a phone number I didn't recognize listed under consumer contact. One account stood out, Buckeye Lending, personal line of credit, $25,000, status, pending verification. Under co-applicant, it listed me, not just my name, my employer, my salary range, my condo address. Nguyen's email was blunt. If it funds, you're on the hook. Freeze everything tonight. I froze my credit, changed every password, set up 2-factor authentication, and ordered an IRS IP PIN like my life depended on it, because it did. Then the mini twist landed in my inbox at 11:32 p.m. Morgan had set up USPS informed delivery to track mail scans. A notification popped up, change of address confirmation. It showed my name and my condo address, with forwarding to AP. Box in Westerville. I didn't do that, I whispered. Morgan's face went gray. Kyle did. He's redirecting your mail, so you won't see the bills. In Kyle's room, we found the proof. A crumpled USPS receipt dated April 5th, plus a key ring with a tiny silver mailbox key I'd never seen. Kyle hadn't just borrowed my address. He'd tried to reroute my whole identity. I sat on the edge of his bed, shaking with anger I couldn't afford to show. Why? I kept saying, like the word could open a door. Morgan crouched in front of me. We don't need to know why yet, they said. We need to stop the bleeding. But the risk had shifted. This wasn't just my credit score. If lenders decided I was complicit, my teaching license could be at risk. If debts went to collections, they could garnish wages. And if my mail disappeared, I'd miss court dates without even knowing they existed. At 1:06 a.m., another email arrived, this time from a notary service. It wasn't addressed to Kyle. It was addressed to me. The subject line read, "Mortgage signing appointment confirmed for tomorrow at 8 a.m. By morning, my hands were steady in the way they get right before a fight. Attorney Nguyen sent me a PDF titled 3-Day Notice to leave the premises with the exact Ohio language. You are being asked to leave the premises. If you do not leave, an eviction action may be initiated." Nguyen highlighted the part that had to be bold. "Serve it properly," Nguyen wrote. "Photograph it. Log the time." Before Kyle came home, I taped the notice to his bedroom door and took photos showing the timestamp, April 12th, for 37 p.m. Morgan filmed me sliding a copy under the door and mailing another certified. When Kyle walked in, he saw the paper and laughed. "What is this? A breakup letter?" "It's an eviction notice," I said, keeping my voice flat. 3 days. Then court. Kyle's smile twitched. "You can't evict me. I live here." "You were here temporarily," Morgan said. "And you committed fraud." Kyle's eyes snapped to Morgan. "Stay out of it." I took a breath. "Kyle, I found my social security number in your bag. I have a police report, 2 bank inquiries, a change of address receipt. Tell me the truth." For a second, his face crumpled, real panic. He stepped toward me, palms up. "Brian, listen. I was trying to fix something. I was going to pay it back. I swear." "What were you fixing?" I asked. His expression hardened. "You wouldn't understand. Try me." He shook his head fast. Then the tears came, sudden and theatrical. "I'm your brother," he choked. "You're really going to put me on the street over paperwork?" "It's not paperwork," Morgan said. "It's our life." Kyle wiped his face and leaned in close enough that I could smell mint gum. His voice dropped. If you do this, I'll tell Mom you're abusive. I'll tell your school you're unstable. I'll tell the HOA you harass me. I didn't flinch, but my stomach rolled. Because Kyle knew where to hit. My job, my reputation, the things I'd built. I looked at Morgan, then back at Kyle. 3 days, I said. After that, it's the courts. Kyle's eyes went cold. You think I haven't been to court before? He murmured. Then he pulled out his phone and hit send on something I couldn't see. Mom called 5 seconds later, screaming, "Why did Kyle send me a police report?" Mom's scream hit my ear like feedback. "Brian, what is wrong with you?" she yelled. "Kyle said you're trying to ruin his life." "Kyle committed identity theft," I said, shaking. "I have evidence. He said you forged it. He said you're having a breakdown." Mom snapped, and I could hear Kyle's voice faintly in the background coaching her. When I hung up, Morgan whispered, "He's priming her. Next he'll prime the police." They were right. On April 14th, day 2 of the notice, I came home to find my front door ajar. Inside, the living room was chaos. Couch cushions ripped, my laptop on the floor, my framed teaching certificate cracked down the middle. Kyle was sitting on the carpet, breathing hard, eyes wide. "Thank God," he gasped. "Brian, don't freak out. Someone broke in." I looked at the broken frame, then at Kyle's hands. No cuts, no splinters. Morgan stepped in behind me and quietly hit record on their phone. Kyle kept talking fast. I tried to stop them. They shoved me. "I think they were looking for you." "For me?" I repeated. "Who would?" A loud knock rattled the door. "Police." Kyle's eyes flicked to mine. "I called," he said. I didn't know what else to do. 2 officers stepped in. One of them, Officer Patel, looked at Kyle, then at me, then at the ripped cushions like he'd seen this movie before. Kyle started crying on command. "He's been threatening me," he blurted, pointing at me. "He's trying to throw me out. He gets in my face. I'm scared." Officer Patel held up a hand. One at a time. My mouth went dry. If they believed Kyle, even for a moment, I could be the one leaving in handcuffs. My principal would find out. Everything Kyle threatened would become real. Morgan spoke calmly. "Officer, we have video from the moment we entered. We also have an active eviction notice and an identity theft report, 26-0419-22. Patel's eyes sharpened. "Show me." Morgan held up the phone. "And we have something else." They turned the screen toward him, and I watched Officer Patel's expression change. On the video, Kyle's break-in started 5 minutes before I arrived home. Officer Patel watched the video twice. It showed Kyle alone in the living room, ripping cushions and yanking my laptop off the table, then opening the front door and pacing like he was waiting for an audience. When I walked in, he collapsed into victim mode on cue. Patel handed Morgan their card. "If he calls again with false claims, reference this incident," he said. He wrote a supplemental number on the back and told Kyle, flatly, "False reporting is a crime." Kyle's eyes stayed shiny with fake tears, but his jaw clenched. The next day, the 3-day notice period ended. Attorney Nguyen walked me through the next step like it was a recipe. File a forcible entry and detainer complaint at municipal court, attach the notice, attach proof of service, bring documentation. On April 16th at 9:22 a.m., Morgan and I stood at the clerk's window with a folder so thick it wouldn't close. HOA fines, screenshots of the Summit Ridge emails, the credit inquiries, photos of the USPS change receipt, the police report number, and stills from Morgan's video. The clerk stamped everything with a loud thunk that made my heart jump. Hearing set, April 27th. Nguyen warned me. Until the court date, do not change the locks. Do not cut utilities. Keep communication in writing. So we did. I started treating my own home like a workplace. No emotion, just procedures. I emailed Kyle, "Please confirm your move-out plan by April 19th. He replied with one word, LOL. On April 18th, a process server knocked at 7:03 p.m. Morgan filmed from the hallway again. Kyle opened the door with a grin, like he'd been waiting. "Are you Kyle Harris?" the server asked. Kyle puffed his chest. "Depends." The server handed him the packet anyway. Kyle skimmed the first page, then looked up at me with an expression that was almost impressed. "You really did it," he said softly. "You took me to court." "I didn't," I corrected. "You did. The moment you used my name." Kyle smiled wider. "Then you should know," he said, tapping the papers. Court works both ways. He turned the packet around so I could see a second set of forms clipped inside, forms I hadn't filed. Across the top, in bold, it read, Tenant Complaint, Unsafe Housing Conditions. Kyle's tenant complaint was a speed bump, and he knew it. Attorney Nguyen said Kyle was trying to delay the eviction by claiming the home was unsafe. Anything to buy time. He wants leverage, Nguyen said, and time to move money. On April 20th, Morgan noticed Kyle sleeping with his phone under his pillow. Not his usual iPhone, another one. A cheap black Android with a cracked screen. When Kyle left to get food, Morgan lifted the couch cushion where he'd been sitting. The burner had slipped into the crease. My stomach flipped. We shouldn't. We don't snoop for fun, Morgan said. We document. The screen lit up when Morgan moved it. A notification banner slid across. Voicemail, call me back. It's about the Buckeye loan. Morgan looked at me. If it's unlocked. It was. Kyle had been sloppy. We went straight to recent. A text thread saved under C sat at the top, blunt like two people who'd done this before. C. You sure teacher boy won't notice? Kyle. He won't. He's scared of conflict. C. Need $25,000 by Friday. Kyle. LOC pending. Using his payroll plus address. Mail forwarded. C. And if he freezes it? Kyle. I stall him in court. Tenant complaint buys time. My throat went dry. It wasn't desperation. It was a plan built around me. Then we played the voicemail. A man's voice, rushed and angry. Kyle. You said Brian would cover it. Buckeye already called your co-applicant. If this doesn't fund by Friday, don't come back here. Morgan's hands trembled as they hit stop. That's the why, they whispered. The front door clicked. Kyle was back. Morgan set the burner on the table like a chess piece. I forced my voice steady. Kyle, I said, who is C? Kyle's eyes locked on the phone, and for the first time, his charm didn't show up on time. He didn't cry. He didn't joke. He just said, low and venomous, you went through my things. Then he stepped toward me, and his hand started to curl into a fist. Morgan raised their own phone and said, smile, you're on video again. Court didn't look like TV. It looked like beige walls and a judge who had heard every excuse before breakfast. On April 27th, Morgan and I sat with attorney Nguyen. Kyle walked in late, wearing a button-down like he was on a job interview. Mom came behind him, clutching her purse and avoiding my eyes. Kyle spoke first. Your Honor, he said, voice trembling. My brother is retaliating because I asked for basic safety. The locks don't work. There's mold. I filed a complaint. I'm scared. The judge glanced at the papers. You filed the tenant complaint on April 18th? Yes, Kyle said quickly. Because I had no choice. Nguyen stood. Your Honor, the complaint is a delay tactic. Mr. Harris served proper notice under ORC 1923-04 on April 12th. We have photo proof and certified mail tracking. We also have evidence of identity theft conducted by the defendant from the premises. Kyle jerked his head up. That's a lie. Nguyen handed the clerk a packet. Exhibit A, police report hashtag 26-0419-22. Exhibit B, bank application naming my client as joint holder without consent. Exhibit C, USPS change of address receipt redirecting my client's mail. Exhibit D, video footage of the defendant staging a break-in on April 14th. The judge watched the video in silence. Kyle's face went blank. Mom's mouth fell open. That's not what Kyle told me, she whispered. The judge looked at Kyle. Did you authorize your brother's social security number to be used on these applications? Kyle's throat bobbed. I was going to fix it, he said. The judge sighed. I'm granting the writ. Lockout scheduled May 2nd. Defendant must vacate. Sheriff will enforce. Kyle snapped to his feet. You can't do this. He's my brother. A bailiff stepped closer. Morgan's hand found mine under the table. In the hallway, Mom started crying for real. Brian, why didn't you tell me it was this bad? I tried, I said, and my voice stayed calm. Kyle leaned into my ear as we walked out. May 2nd, he whispered. You'll regret choosing them over blood. And that's how we ended up back at my front door with a deputy and a locksmith. Kyle waited behind the screen door until the deputy read one last line out loud. Kyle's smile died when the deputy said, There's also a warrant attached. When the locksmith finally finished and the deputy escorted Kyle out, the courtyard went silent in that weird, shocked way. like even the birds were listening. Kyle didn't leave like a villain storming off. He left like someone who still believed he'd be back. He carried one trash bag of clothes, then paused at the bottom of the stairs and looked up at me. "This isn't over," he said. Officer Patel was waiting by the cruiser, calm as a metronome. Kyle talked big until Patel mentioned the word warrant. Then Kyle's shoulders sank like someone cut his strings. After they drove away, Morgan and I stood in our living room and didn't move for a full minute. The air smelled like old beer and stress. My cracked certificate lay on the floor like a joke. The first thing we did was walk room to room with our phones out, filming everything. The ripped couch, the missing electronics, the scuffs on the doorframe. Gwen said photos were boring magic, the kind of proof that wins. Then we changed the passwords again. We filed an FTC identity theft report. We disputed the Buckeye inquiry in writing. Summit Ridge flagged the account as fraudulent and promised a letter for my records within 10 business days. Every step felt like dragging my life back from the edge with my fingernails. Mom came over once, 3 days later. She stood in my doorway like she expected to be turned away. "I didn't know," she said, voice small. "He told me you were just being mean." "I wasn't being mean," I said. "I was being safe." She nodded, then flinched as if the word hurt. "He's still your brother." I took a breath. "And this is still my home. If you want to talk to me, you don't bring messages from him. You don't ask me to fix him. You don't guilt me." Mom's eyes filled. "Okay," she whispered. "Okay." That night, Morgan and I ate takeout on the balcony, the first quiet dinner in weeks. The city hummed below, normal and indifferent, and I realized my hands weren't shaking anymore. Then my phone lit up with an unknown number and a single voicemail notification. The transcript preview started with 3 words, "Brian, it's Kyle." I didn't listen to Kyle's voicemail right away. I stared at the screen like it was another bank envelope. Morgan sat beside me. "You don't owe him your ears," they said. "Only your boundaries." I played it anyway, because part of me still wanted the version of Kyle who used to split his fries with me. His voice came out thin, trying to sound calm. "Brian, it's Kyle. Look, things got complicated. I'm not saying I was right, okay? But you don't understand what I was dealing with. You took it nuclear." Then a pause, and his tone sharpened. "Mom's a mess. Everyone thinks I'm a criminal now. If you could just tell them you overreacted, it would help." There it was, the same move, just packaged as remorse. I didn't call him back. I forwarded the voicemail to Attorney Nguyen and Officer Patel. Nguyen replied, "Do not engage. Keep everything." The next weeks were boring work. Dispute letters, affidavits, a new mailbox lock, and a credit freeze that became permanent. Summit Ridge sent a letter confirming the account was fraudulent. Buckeye Lending closed the file after I submitted the police report and FTC ID. The harder part was the emotional math. I had to accept that loving someone doesn't mean housing them. Helping someone doesn't mean handing them your identity. And being the responsible one doesn't mean you're required to be collateral for someone else's chaos. Mom and I talked more carefully after that. When she tried to say, "But he's your brother," I'd answer, "And I deserve safety too." Sometimes she nodded. Sometimes she cried. That was our new reality. If you're in this situation, here's what I wish I'd known. Put rules in writing. Freeze credit the moment something feels off. Document everything, screenshots, dates, report numbers. Evict the legal way, even when it hurts. A week after the lockout, Morgan and I replaced the couch, hung my certificate in a new frame, and ate dinner on the balcony in real quiet. The wind was warm, and my home finally felt like mine again.